In the heart of a fog-drenched forest, where ancient trees loomed like silent sentinels, stood a desolate mansion. Its once grand facade was now a patchwork of peeling paint and creeping vines. The mansion had long been abandoned, but tonight, it was alive with whispers. Whispers that promised more than mere secrets. Eleanor Hargrove had always been drawn to the unknown. Her friends and family thought her fascination with the supernatural was merely a hobby. They didn't understand. They didn't know about the whispering shadows that haunted her dreams. Tonight, she had ventured to the mansion, determined to confront whatever lay within its crumbling walls. The forest was eerily quiet as Eleanor approached the mansion. The air was thick with fog, and her flashlight flickered intermittently. Her breath formed ghostly plumes in the cold air. She paused at the threshold, the massive wooden door slightly ajar, creaking on rusty hinges. Eleanor took a deep breath and stepped inside. The mansion's interior was as forsaken as its exterior. Dust particles danced in the beam of her flashlight. The silence was profound, broken only by the distant drip of water from a leaky pipe. Eleanor moved cautiously, her footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dust on the floor as she ventured deeper into the mansion. The temperature seemed to drop. Eleanor shivered, though she tried to ignore the chill. The walls were adorned with faded portraits, their eyes following her every move. She could almost hear their silent screams that in the grand hall. Eleanor found an old, ornate mirror, its surface cracked and cloudy. She approached it, her reflection a ghostly blur. Suddenly, a low whisper floated through the air, so soft it was almost imperceptible. Eleanor's heart raced. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling, and no answer came. The whisper faded, leaving only the sound of her own breathing. Eleanor turned away from the mirror, but out of the corner of her eye, she saw something move. She spun around, her flashlight illuminating only empty space. The whispering had stopped, but the feeling of being watched persisted. Determined not to let fear control her, Eleanor continued her exploration. She entered a dimly lit library, the air thick with the smell of mold and decay. Shelves lined the walls, filled with old, leather-bound books. Eleanor's flashlight caught the glint of something metallic among the books. As she approached, she realized it was a brass key. She picked it up, examining it closely. It was intricately designed, with strange symbols engraved on its surface. Eleanor felt a shiver run down her spine. What could it unlock? Her curiosity outweighed her apprehension, and she continued her search. The library led to a narrow staircase that spiraled downward into darkness. Eleanor hesitated, but the key was a compelling lure. She descended the stairs, the air growing colder with each step. At the bottom, she found a heavy wooden door, its surface marred by deep scratches. Eleanor inserted the key into the lock. It turned with a satisfying click, and the door creaked open. She stepped into a small, dimly lit room. The walls were lined with shelves holding dusty tomes and strange artifacts. In the center of the room stood a wooden table with an open book. The pages were filled with strange symbols and cryptic text. As Eleanor approached the table, the whispers returned, louder this time. They seemed to swirl around her, forming incoherent murmurs. She tried to focus on the book, but the words danced before her eyes, slipping away like shadows. Suddenly, a cold hand gripped her shoulder. Eleanor gasped and spun around, but no one was there. The room seemed to pulse with an unseen energy. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening. They spoke in a language she couldn't understand, but their tone was unmistakably menacing. In a panic, Eleanor grabbed the book and stumbled backward. The whispers reached a crescendo, and the shadows on the walls began to writhe and twist. It was as if the very darkness had come alive. She turned and fled, her heart pounding in her chest. The staircase seemed to stretch endlessly as she raced up it. Her flashlight flickered more erratically now, the beam struggling against the encroaching darkness. As she reached the grand hall, the whispers began to recede, but the oppressive weight of the shadows remained. Eleanor burst through the front door and into the forest. She ran blindly, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The fog had thickened, making it difficult to see. She could still hear the whispers, faint and distant, as if they were following her. When she finally reached her car, she fumbled with the keys, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She started the engine and sped away from the mansion, not daring to look back. The whispers faded into the distance, but their presence lingered in her mind as Eleanor drove away. She glanced in the rearview mirror. The mansion was a dark silhouette against the fog, its windows like hollow eyes staring into the void. She could almost hear the whispers again, but this time they were not just in her ears. They were in her mind. The drive home was a blur. Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that something was following her, that the mansion's shadows had not let go. She arrived at her house, exhausted and frightened. As she unlocked the door, she noticed something odd. A small, brass key on the doormat. Eleanor froze, her blood running cold. The key was identical to the one she had found in the mansion. Trembling, she picked it up and stared at it, her mind racing. Had she unknowingly brought something back with her? Was the mansion's curse now following her? She hurried inside and locked the door behind her. The whispers had returned, softer now, but persistent. Eleanor knew that she could never escape them. The shadows had claimed her, and they would never let her go as she lay in bed. The whispers continued their relentless murmur, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the edge of her perception. The mansion was no longer a place of mystery. It was a part of her, a shadow that would forever whisper in her ears. And so, Eleanor Hargrove lived with the knowledge that the whispering shadows would always be with her, a haunting reminder of the secrets she had uncovered and the darkness she could never escape.